It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the American International College head rugby coach, Coach T Fletcher. How are you doing today?
I'm great. And yourself?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college rugby?
Sure. So I knew I always wanted to give back to a sport that's provided so much to me. And I had a couple coaches that had reached out to me saying this job had presented itself and they thought it'd be a really good fit for me. So I decided to pursue it.
What was that experience like for you going to Appalachian State and playing club rugby and women's soccer?
I always knew that I wanted to play soccer at a competitive level. Growing up, I got into soccer and was really fortunate to have amazing coaches and a family that supported me, driving me all over the place, to get to practice in the games. So when I had the opportunity to play in college, I knew I wanted to compete at the highest level possible.
What was that
Um, yeah.
experience like going and playing club rugby there too?
It was interesting. So I lost a bet, and that's how I found rugby. My two other roommates were varsity soccer players, and our fourth roommate was club soccer and rugby. So I lost a bet and I cashed in and I went to rugby practice, and everybody was so welcoming that I knew I wanted to come back.
How was that experience like balancing club rugby and playing Division I soccer for Appalachian?
It was never did it simultaneous. I would go hang out, watch the women's rugby games, because we got to know them. Some of them were my classes. And at that point, I decided that there may be a pathway for me in rugby. I remember calling my parents, who were 13 hours away, and saying, I found a new passion. But I was on a full ride for soccer. And my dad said, it's okay. We want you to be happy. If this is something you really want to do, you should go for it. And of course, my mom was in the background cringing because she was like, oh gosh, why do you have to put, a full contact sport? We paid for braces when you were a kid. But, in all seriousness, pursue it. Let's see what happens. So I ended up leaving soccer and picking up rugby.
What were some of your collegiate accomplishments throughout your playing time?
I got some minutes as a freshman, and that only increased as my time went on for the women's soccer program. And then for rugby, I remember getting the last 5 minutes of my first game. There were two freshmen that the coach put in, and I just remember getting the ball. I was wearing football cleats because I played football in high school. I had basketball shorts on and I had the rugby jersey. And I remember getting the ball and just hearing people say run. And I ran and just launched my body over the try zone. And I ended up scoring a try in my first game. And I never looked back. So I became an All American for rugby in college. And I was invited to close camps for USA.
What was that experience like going to play professional rugby in the Women's Premier League?
It was intense. It was a whole nother level. I remember when I flew to Massachusetts for my second round interview for AIC that I had also been in contact with the coaches and captains for Beantown for the WPL League. I also got to see them play in DC area, which was, 5 hours from Raleigh, North Carolina. So getting to know the players, seeing their style of play, understanding what that level of commitment would be like. But the whole level of competition just goes up another notch, and the commitment goes up. I mean, we had to fly to all of our games with the exception of two. And so yeah, I mean, they really put you to the test.
Being a part of the U.S. national team, what was that experience like getting to be a part of that?
So I was in the player pool, and it was amazing. Just showing up to the camps, obviously, it was super intimidating. It was really exciting. But the coaches there are so knowledgeable and so welcoming and inviting, and they taught me so much just about myself and drills that I could take back to my current program, but also really just pushing and challenging me as an athlete.
How was that experience like getting to play for the Raleigh club?
It was awesome. I think I'm one of the longest standing consecutive players to play on the women's team. Seen a lot of coaches, come and go, donating their volunteer time and learned so much from them. And if it wasn't for them, I mean, I would have never been able to excel in my rugby career. It's a really tight knit community there. We're really close with the men's side, and as we've progressed, even today, the youth program there is just booming.
What was that transition like going from being a professional athlete to getting into coaching?
I think it was a big transition, right? Because you're on the other side of the field now. So you're kind of thinking, okay, as an athlete, I really appreciated this, or these weren't my favorite things to do, or I wish I had more of this. So just kind of trying to incorporate everything in as a coach and kind of seeing what sticks with that group of people.
Of course, coming to American International, what was that experience like being a head coach for the first time?
It was 10 times different. Coaching a club team, where typically you're training 2, 3 days a week for a couple hours at a time, and then, being on the road on the weekends for games. And then now you're coming into it full time where you're not just doing the training sessions, you're making sure that everybody has their classes and they're taking enough credits and they're eligible to play in games and they're eating right and they're making it to their strength and conditioning and booking their flights and being back on time. There's a lot that goes into it that I don't think that I had fully grasped, but I've definitely, learned as I've gone.
What was some of the things that you learned as a professional athlete to help you into where you are now as a head coach?
Because I'm still playing, I think it's taking a lot of how I feel as an athlete and, what my body needs and the rest and the nutrition, the strength and conditioning, the team bonding, the training. I think kind of incorporating a lot of that into being able to see it through the lens of an athlete in college.
What is that like balancing being a professional athlete in rugby and also being a college rugby coach?
It's a lot. I can only thank my mom for the organization that she had when I was growing up. I'm definitely blessed to be able to multitask 1,000 things in my head, and not drop the ball. But knowing, if I'm going to commit to, I've made a full commitment to AIC. So that is my priority. But then, on the playing side, that comes next. So getting in what I can and trying to be successful at both.
How was that experience like coming to AIC and getting to coach not just the women's rugby, but the men's rugby too?
Um, it's kind of been bittersweet. I had no idea that I would be breaking ground in making history. And clearly, that's not why I did it. The job opened up. I knew I wanted to get back into coaching and doing it like full time. That's been my passion to be around sports. Um, and so I took the job at what it was. I was just very, very lucky to have such a great group. I came in the middle of a year. So my first semester with the boys was spring, which means they had already played 15s in the fall. So getting to know them, and we qualified for nationals my first season, and it was only then as we kept climbing the ranks, and getting to the championship that I was receiving emails and phone calls and texts and people wanting to do interviews and getting chased around by USA Rugby staff saying this is history. You're the first female to coach a men's Division 1 collegiate rugby team. Like, you're coaching at the highest level for a men's team. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And truth be told, I kept pushing off the interviews because the way I saw it was men and women's rugby is the same sport. It's the same rules. It makes us very unique. So, like, I thought it was cool. And, I was encouraged to, for my mentors and friends and teammates to look at it a different way, that you're a role model for future females. And so it's been really exciting. Yeah, I do it 10 times over.
What has that been like, obviously setting history and being the first female to coach the men's rugby on a Division 1 level?
I don't really think about it. I mean, it's pretty obvious when we go to, the annual general meetings with the conference, and I'm in a room full of, 75 other men, and I'm the only female. Or, I'm at these different conferences or meetings, or, going on trips, it's where's the female bathroom and things like that. But I think I'm just kind of used to it because I'm there for the rugby, I'm there for the boys, and yeah, just to provide a good experience. So it's never about me.
What does the typical rugby match look like for you as a head coach versus for your players?
I think we're on the same page there. I mean, they just prep a little differently, right? In terms of getting their gear together and making sure that they're getting plentiful meals and fueling their bodies appropriately for the matches. And for me, it's making sure, that the rosters are all turned in. We've got our game kit and when we leave and how we're getting there. But at the end of the day, our goal is the same. Our vision is the same.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the rugby program at American International?
Yeah, it's been a work in progress. I'd be lying if I didn't admit that there have been many nights of tears, many nights of 3 hours of sleep, grinding away. You know, it's about creating this environment for the men and the women that is safe, that's fun, and that there's a place for everybody. And I truly believe that rugby has a place for every body shape, size, walk of life.
Of course, who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
For the women this year, it was different. I've been begging and pleading for more games. Our D2 conference is very spread out. We have teams North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland, Michigan. So we've split our conference into 2 divisions. And so we don't get a lot of games. So this year I've been asking, look, we need more games. So we've actually played 4 Division 1 matches this year. And I think it's the only way to get better if we really challenge ourselves and push to the side worrying about what our stats look like, but really getting that experience to prep. For the men's side, we're in the biggest Division 1 conference in the U.S. It's huge. And it's competitive. We play against a lot of the Ivy schools, against a lot of programs that have been in existence for 50 years longer than we have. But they're both really good competitive conferences.
Of course, on the men's side, was it like getting to compete against those Ivy League schools like Princeton, Yale, Harvard?
It's good. It shows us different looks because they have different styles. And, Harvard has been a program that's been in existence for quite some time. And then you have Princeton, who just joined, last year with a full-time head coach. So, and both coaches I've played against and I've played with. So that dynamic is always fun from a coaching perspective. But, from a playing perspective, it's exciting for our women to be able to go outside of the D2 and get that exposure.
Of course, on the women's side, what is that like getting to play some of those teams in North Carolina that you as an athlete were playing against?
It's cool. When we went down to Queens last year, some of the girls that are playing there now, I literally taught how to pass catch a rugby ball. So seeing them be able to thrive in rugby and stay with it and, be a collegiate varsity athlete, it's like really rewarding.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Queens comes to your home facility?
It's electric. Our men and women's programs are very close. So, even if the men's team is the only team that shows up, it, it gets pretty noisy. But it's really neat though to have captured the attention of their professors now, the president, our athletic directors. I mean, they're all coming out to our games now. So it's really exciting.
What is that atmosphere like when you go away and play teams like Princeton at Princeton?
It's obviously, the fan base isn't as much because it's on the road. But we still have parents that come. We still have players that will still travel, whether it's boyfriends or girlfriends or classmates, sisters, brothers. So it's still the same, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to play at home for the atmosphere. But nothing changes because our goal is still the same. It's to go there, do our job and win the game and then go on to the next.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes, and what do you look at in the as a head coach in them?
Yeah, great question. So I mean, we're heavily recruiting 365. We are looking not necessarily for the collegiate All-Americans, or the all academic Americans. We're looking for um, individuals that want to earn a degree and play competitively and that have an open mind with a really good attitude. So while they may come in saying, Coach, I played 1 through 15, um, they're going to come in here and we encourage them to kind of find their primary and secondary position, so they can really just focus in on that because, again, this is another level that they're competing at.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those prospective student athletes fall in love with the rugby facility?
It's rewarding. It's so rewarding.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your freshmen put on that AIC jersey for the first time?
Oh man, it's exciting. It's humbling. It's rewarding. It's everything. It's all the hours and the time and the effort that has gone on from the coaching side of things, recruiting, and the player side, and finally saying like the crest on my chest, it's my dreams have come true.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like seeing those players achieve those first milestones, whether it's their first points or their first wins?
I think it's motivational for them, and a lot of it backs the confidence that a lot of them don't have coming in as freshmen or transfers. So really kind of being able to provide that for them.
What is it like seeing your singers put on that uniform for the last time?
It's sad. It's bittersweet. We just had a senior that graduated in December, and she was our um, biggest try scorer in the tight five. So just thinking about the journey since I recruited her and her earning her degree and now landing a full-time job. Yeah, it's definitely bittersweet.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those players go on and playing in professional rugby like you have?
Oh, it's awesome. I think it's great. Not everybody that comes through here has the same pathway. Some know they want to come in and commit to 4 years. Others want to go play for a national team. They want to play internationally. So knowing that these players have come in and now they're playing in the WPL or they're playing in the USA national sides or internationally, it makes the blood, sweat, and tears worth it.
Of course, what are some of the game day traditions that you've have helped implement it?
I don't know that we really have a game day tradition. I think the players probably have their own things in the locker rooms, which I don't touch, and we'll just leave it at that. But whatever it is, they get it done, and they're all in sync. So, knock on wood, we'll keep with those traditions and hope it continues to bring us success.
As a head coach so far, what have been some of your biggest accomplishments?
Seeing people graduate, seeing them come through, earn their college degree, land full-time jobs, or go play at the next level, or do both. And just hearing from them, knowing that I made an impact. I was impactful for them and made a difference in their lives and provided opportunity. Like that is worth everything.
What are some of your future plans for AIC's rugby program moving forward?
Continue growing it. We don't have a huge alumni base yet. We're getting there. So by that I mean The men and women that have graduated are just, landing their full-time jobs. They've been there for a couple of years. But really growing this program so we could potentially, provide a sub-varsity team on both sides and continue competing at the highest level.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college rugby?
To be open-minded, have a positive attitude and just try things and put yourself out there, be vulnerable.
What advice would you give those college rugby players out there looking to play professional rugby like you have?
Know what you're able to give, know what you want, and same thing, put yourself out there to the coaches, to the team, and be vulnerable with it.
What advice would you give those professional rugby players like yourself that are looking to get into coaching?
Do it. I would say, as Nike says, just do it. I mean, you have nothing to lose. And I am all for anybody that wants to grow this game.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own rugby program and build their own legacy in rugby?
Ditto, same thing. I mean, the more people that can get behind rugby and learn about it, or identified on TV saying, "Oh, is that rugby?" I mean, the goal would be to, have it be just as big as American football.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the AIC's rugby program at?
Good question. I'm on Facebook at T Fletcher, and I think my Insta. I have to check real quick because I'm always on our AIC account, but not mine. Our AIC is just AIC, and then my Instagram is maybe Fletcher _T, I think. Yeah, at AIC Rugby, and then for myself, it's Fletcher _T.
Thank you again, Coach Fletcher, for your interview, and best luck in your future at AIC as a head rugby coach.
Much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Fletcher, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.